the Building Safety Bill, which is in draft form at the moment, but is currently moving through Parliament. And that's obviously primarily focused on residential buildings, but because it's a primary legislation, there is obviously the opportunity for further down the line for secondary legislation to be used to actually make that apply to other buildings, and possibly buildings of a lesser height, should we say. And then obviously there's the Fire Safety Act, which was passed in April 2021, which amends the Fire Safety Order 2005. And it's obviously just one of the collection of elements of the legislation that's going through Parliament to, as a result of the tragedy 4 years ago. But the responsible person will also be manage the risk for the external walls of the building, including balconies, as well as the cladding, and also brings in confirmation that the entrance doors to individual flats that open to the common parts are also now covered under the RRO. So quite an important element that's been a matter of uncertainty for a long time. Perhaps it shouldn't have been, but there we go. It's now been clarified that these elements are now brought in under the Fire Safety Order. So we must consider those as we're managing our buildings.
So the requirements in the law are the accountable person is under a duty to produce the safety case report. So he's got to put that to the regulator to put his case that the building that he owns and occupies as responsible for is safe to operate. The new building regs are going to set it out. On the right there, you'll see a very simple drawing on the gateway system, which I'm sure you'll have heard of. Gateway 1 is really concept. Gateway 2 is just before you get onto site. This is for new build, but wherever CDM operates, this is where the construction phase plan goes in, and it'll be anticipated that the designer and the contractor and the client will be effectively signing off at Gateway 2 that the building they intend to build will be in line with all building regs, and they won't be allowed to go and turn the first sod. They won't be allowed to get onto site unless the regulator has passed at the Gateway 2. It's a hard stop.
It's about putting building safety first above all other considerations. It's being open and transparent. It's making safety a key factor of choice in all aspects of the design and build of buildings. And it's to ensure that voices are heard for residents, visitors, employees, and to set out really clear responsibilities and accountabilities within organisations for building safety in order to shift the dial in relation to the building safety culture that exists. Dame Judith Hackett's report identified a failure of leadership and culture as one of the principal contributing factors to the Grenfell Tower disaster, but it was also not news, because in all other recent major hazard disasters that have taken place in oil and gas, like Buncefield, and rail disasters, aviation, there have been subsequent public inquiries, and in each of those cases, failures of leadership and culture were seen to be major contributing factors.
Does sprinklers work? Yes, we know that. This is an example of one head actuated. So you can see there that the one head went off, controlled the fire. We never say really that sprinklers extinguish a fire. Extinguishing the fire is the responsibility of the Fire and Rescue Brigade. All a sprinkler system will do is will control the fire, and it will keep it small until human intervention. They will extinguish the fire generally, but that's not what they're designed for. They're there to control the fire. Here, it was, as you can see, very little damage. One head actuated, the isolated the flat after that. Everybody else went back into the building, and then a few days later, they could reinstall the sprinkler system in there and then refit the kitchen back out again. We need to mitigate the risk. Ensure that the products have a third-party approval, and that goes on for the whole holistic approach, really. Sprinklers work alongside fire doors. They work alongside a good fire alarm system that's activated. Got the occupants moving out of the risk, let the sprinklers do the job, and then everything works together holistically.
Okay, so the manufacturing process, this would be the same whether it's rock wool, rock panel, rock fawn. We take basalt rock and it goes into the furnace, which is heated in excess of 1500 degrees, because that's the point where the rock would start to melt. And it's very much like a giant candy floss machine. So it spins very slowly, and as the rock starts to melt, they throw in some binding agents, and that's what creates the fibers. If you go to visit the factory, then they can show you the stone wool being made, and when it comes out, it's just like a kind of a dirty brown colour stick of candy floss. So that's it. So rock wool obviously make it into decorative boarding, and we will press it down and make it into to cladding.
What are your key challenges within your fire safety and compliance teams? We all understand that there's a lot of pressures currently with the demand on the fire safety, and they're key in keeping up to date with that current legislation. So the question is, how confident is your internal team with the decision making around all aspects of fire safety? And does your team fully understand all those aspects of the latest legislation?